Morning folks, welcome to the Rangers Review pre-match briefing. I am at Tynecastle ahead of Rangers versus Hearts in the Scottish Premiership. Rangers back to league action obviously after the international break. The teams are just out, so I'll read you both of them, starting with the visitors. Rangers go with Al McGregor in goals. Back for James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, Ben Davies, who makes just his second league start. Obviously hasn't played all that much since his move from Liverpool in the summer. Good to see him in the starting 11. I think people kind of expected after this international break, it was a case of if not now, then when will he start? So it's good to see that he comes into that back four next to Connor Goldson. He's been signed to be presumably the long-term partner to Goldson, so no better time to get that started. The earlier the better. And Bona Barisic continues his place at left back. No place for Ruud van Yilmaz, who Giovanni van Bronckhorst spoke about yesterday in his press conference. Said he's had a slightly difficult start and just settling into new country, etc. Given some context why he's not played so far, but so he's on the bench as well today. Lundstram and Jack at the base of midfield. Again, I think that was probably to be expected. That's the midfield pairing that Van Bronckhorst has tended to favour in games of this kind of magnitude. I think that'll give Rangers a pretty solid foundation. Ryan Jack looked a little bit sharper for me over the international break playing for Scotland. He said as much himself yesterday in the press conference. Rangers need a big performance from him today alongside John Lundstram, obviously the mainstay in that midfield. And then I guess a couple of interesting calls in behind the striker is Antonio Čolak up top. He scored 6 goals in I think 7 league starts, but on minutes played it's about a goal a game. And he continues his place up front. I think many people thought that is this a game that would suit Alfredo Morelos better, given he's a good record at Tynecastle, but also allows Rangers to play through the pitch a little bit more, whereas Čolak is slightly less involved outside the box. But I guess when you've got a striker that scored that many goals, it's hard to justify dropping him for a league fixture. And then looks like it'll be Scott Arfield playing behind them in the number 10 position with Rabbi Matondo and Ryan Kent. You'd presume it would be Kent off the left and Matondo off the right. Obviously, we won't know until we see the teams come and line up. But I guess there's a flexibility to alternate that. I think a big call for Matondo to play because he wasn't in the squad prior to the international break for the game against Dundee United at Ibrox. So I think that's another positive sign. You need players like him and Davies, who money's been spent on this season, to start making an impact, particularly when you're now, we're 1st of October, the season's starting to get into games that will really dictate the outcome. So I think it'll be an important afternoon for him as well. The subs bench, John McLaughlin, now he was injured before the international break. It wasn't really clear to me when Van Bronckhorst was speaking at the press conference if McLaughlin was one of the players who he was referencing when he was speaking about injuries. Maybe there's still a little bit of a knock with him, and that's why he's on the bench, or maybe Al McGregor has worked his way back into the team. I guess that's something that the manager will maybe clarify pre or post match. Ruud van Yilmaz, Stephen Davis, James Sands, Morelos, Wright, Fashion Jr., King, Tillman. So I guess a notable absentee from the bench is Glenn Kamara there. But aside from that, that is your Rangers team. And I'll reach out the Hearts team. It's Gordon, Smith, Kingsley, Keogh, Shankland, Devlin, Forrest, Mackay, Cochrane, Nielsen and Humphreys. Robbie Nielsen, speaking in the media this week, said that he expects Hearts to win. He expects Hearts to win when they're home. I think in a way that could suit Rangers because the game will become a little bit more open instead of them having to break teams down. I think they've been much better when they've been playing into space, and the majority of goals they've scored in the league has been either counter-attacking against teams or transitioning through teams and playing into space, such as, think of Lawrence's header as a good example in Edinburgh a few weeks ago against Hibs. I guess the main threats on that Hearts side, as I think we showed in the morning briefing yesterday, their XG tree map, I think we called it. Shankland, Forrest and Mackay have all probably been the most potent attacking threat. Shankland 4 goals, Mackay 2 and Forrest 3 so far. I think Hearts will attack Rangers, as I say. I think Nielsen will expect that. Obviously, when Rangers were here, when Van Bronckhorst first got the job back in December of 2021, Rangers have scored 2 goals by, I think, the 13-minute mark. We'll take a start like that again today because Rangers have started slowly in the league so far, and I think often that suits the opposition more than it suits them. There's the argument that, your quality will come out through the longer that the game goes on, but equally I think often the longer the game stays level, it suits the opposition more than it suits Rangers, who will need to, as I say, start quickly. another main talking points, I guess, as well as what we had in the piece this morning, that this is a must-win game for Rangers, certainly in my opinion. Simultaneously, it feels like Van Bronckhorst, if he gets a big result and he can take that into the Champions League, that could be very important. But equally, if Rangers aren't to go and capitalise on Celtic's drop points, then there's no point in it whatsoever. It's all very well the gap being cut to 2 points, but Rangers didn't really cut that gap to Celtic that dropped the points. What Rangers can do is obviously go top, even if it is only for an hour or 2 or 3 today, if they are to win in the early kick-off. But as Nielsen said, Hearts will think that they can leapfrog Rangers because of the goal difference and the fact I think they're 3 points behind, so an absolute must-win. And I think Van Bronckhorst needs a convincing league domestic performance where Rangers dominate the ball, they play with tempo, and people can see what he is trying to create in these games. Right, let's get through some of these comments. Lots of comments coming in today. Luke says Matondo must step up today. Yeah, absolutely. I think big game for Abby Matondo and a lot of trust shown in him. He starts, Tillman doesn't, which is interesting. Obviously, he's kind of come out of the team a little bit after a really promising start. But when you spend money on a player like Matondo, you need him to come and make the difference in big games. So looking forward to seeing how he does today. Is this the Rangers Review headquarters? It's not. It is Tynecastle, inside the bills of Tynecastle. So we'll be out in the gantry in just a minute. Looking forward to the game. Obviously, always a really good atmosphere here, and I'm sure there'll be an excellent travelling support as always. Roy says, I hope Kent plays in the right with Matondo on the left. I would like to see Lundstrom further forward. Yeah, well, the thing is, as Roy kind of alludes to, Van Bronckhorst is flexible and he changes things, and that means that we don't really know exactly how maybe certain players will play. At times we've seen Lundstrom and Jack sit right in front of the defence when they've played together. At times we've seen Jack kind of play higher as one of the number 8s. At times we've even seen Lundstrom at home and play with a little bit more freedom and get up the pitch. Matondo, I think, is most likely to start on the right just purely because Kent has always played on the left under Van Bronckhorst. But you never know. And personally, I wouldn't mind to see something just a little bit different, especially after the international break, which will have given the team some time to work and iron out the creases of what's going wrong, something that Jack spoke about as well in the press conference yesterday. Stephen says it's a very promising lineup and a strong bench. In my opinion, Anfield is better coming in, Arfield is better coming in later. Yeah, that seemed to be the plan at the start of the season. Stephen, especially in home games, obviously Livingston away, but at the moment with Lawrence out, Tillman seemingly not favoured for the starting 11 at the moment. He hasn't been for the last couple of games. Then I guess you're down to Arfield because Hadji and Lowry still aren't involved. What you'll get from him in a game like this. I think he's a player you can trust. I had him in my predicted lineup. I had him from the right, but quite happy to see 2 wingers because I think Rangers have looked at their best under Van Bronckhorst. They've not always had a consistent outlet aside from Kent, even though Kent's not been very consistent this season. But when they can stretch the pitch on either side, when they can have that threat on either wing, I think that's probably when they look better. And Ben Davies as well, left-footed centre-half. He's been bought for a lot of money. Coming in the prime of his career, he's had a couple of injuries which have knocked him back, but he must be fit enough and sharp enough to start this game. And I think it's promising that you're starting to see that now, because obviously the last couple of games before the international break, Napoli had no summer signings. Against Dundee United, you had 1 or 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. Important you get these players in and get them up to speed as quickly as possible. The fact we're starting Matondo and Davies makes me think we're going to soak up pressure and catch them on the counter. I think Matondo, obviously, the selection of Matondo tells you what game Van Bronckhorst expects this to be. He does expect there to be space to play into. That's what probably Nielsen said as well. I guess alluded to when he was speaking about going in and attacking Rangers, expecting his team to win. We'll ultimately obviously see if that suits Rangers, if they can withstand the pressure, but also if they can capitalise when they play into space. So I'm going to head up just now to the gantry. We'll be live full time as well. We'll have all the reaction on the Twitter, so do go over there. You can subscribe to the website, as you can see in the ticker below, for just £1. The link to that is in the description, not the comments. We've also got an interview with Stuart Robertson about recruitment today. What's the background between bringing a player in? Who decides? Does the manager have the final say? All these questions and more. So you can go and read that. As I say, £1 for 2 months. And we'll get better value than that whatsoever. And we'll have lots of content from this game, whether it be analysing the positives, hopefully, or what went wrong. There'll be lots of analysis over on the website tonight and tomorrow morning. So I'll speak to you full time. Until then, enjoy the game, whether you're at Tynecastle or watching elsewhere.